from the start, I mean, from that very moment when I started doing it, I slapped those pictures up on Instagram, and I immediately got really positive feedback and people buying these pieces right away. And so pretty quickly, in that first year, I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And so I quit. I quit building houses. I quit building cabinets,
Mm-hmm.
and I just went for it.
Sculptor Chandler McLellan once stated, "I am inspired by the past and the renditions of the future. I hope to create objects that inspire stories, interpretation, and imagination, regardless of the passage of time." Hi, listeners, and welcome back once again to Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner of Art Dimensions in LA, your one-stop shop for fine contemporary art leasing and sales. Today, I'm chatting with an incredible artist, Chandler McLellan, and I'm thrilled to be interviewing him. I want to hear more from him about his inspiration and his background, so let's dive in and let's get him in the show. Hey, Chandler.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me here again.
Thanks for being here. Welcome to the show. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. All right, let's dive in. What are you up to these days in your studio?
I have finally decided to take some time and do some things I've been waiting to do for a while. Some of them I haven't, I guess I'm holding them close to the vest, I guess. But I will say I'm venturing into some different mediums like bronze, working with some fabricators elsewhere to kind of bring those pieces to life. I'm starting to mix up my wood and kind of, change up my aesthetic a little bit, which has been really great. I think, yeah, just taking that time to evolve a little bit. Things have been so busy for the past 2 or 3 years that I have not had time to really experiment or try new things. So that's what I've been doing. I've kind of, forced myself to take that time. So it's been good.
That's awesome. Bronze is definitely something new for you. I'm so excited to
Yeah.
see the new piece.
Yeah. I'll send you some before everyone else sees it. Get
Oh,
the
thank
inside
you.
scoop.
Okay, very good. I love that. Why sculpting for you? I mean, let's talk about your practice. Why sculpting rather than another medium like photography or painting?
So that's interesting. I don't know. There's probably multiple reasons. Growing up, I spent all my time, I mean, my toys, everything was hands-on. I was a huge Lego kid. My dad did all the work around the house in terms of like remodeling and fixing things. I was just always involved in building and doing things with my hands. And then most of my life, while I was going to school or before I was going to school, like college, I'm referring to college, I was, working as a carpenter. I've just always been building things with wood. So for me, it was the easiest, I guess, way. And since I didn't go to art school, I haven't been exposed to all the different mediums or the techniques. And so when I had the urge to create things, I was just thinking, okay, what's the easiest way for me to do this in a way that it will actually, turn out well? I'd be happy with the product. So it was just sculpting for me. I was comfortable around all the crazy power tools, even though I have cut parts of my fingers off and stuff. I mean, it happens, but that was where I felt comfortable with wood. And so I kind of went from there.
And how long have you been sculpting?
About 3 years, not very long at all.
Yeah, that's not very long. But before that, you were a cabinet. Are you still a cabinet maker? Would you consider yourself that?
Um, that's funny. People ask me that, like, "Hey, if I asked you to do some cabinets just on the side, would you do that?" And I actually don't know if I feel comfortable doing that. It seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was building houses for a little while, then cabinets, and I've done a little bit of everything.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, the sculptures are, just so everybody knows, they are beautiful and they are all like tabletop size, I would say.
yeah, most of them. Yeah,
Most of them, yeah. You can see them at artdimensionsonline.com. You can also see them at chandlermclellan.com, which is ChandlerMcLellan sculpt.com. They are so beautiful. Okay. Did you always want to be an artist?
No, it is. I don't, I'm just shocked that I am doing what I'm doing. I had absolutely no ambition to be an artist.
Wow.
I thought, you know, I really enjoy building. I want to design houses. I want to, you know, work on that scale. And after doing that for a few years, I just was so bored, like, with all the straight lines everywhere. And, to a certain extent, most houses are pretty similar. So unless you're just a super famous architect, you're not going to get that chance to express yourself in that way. So while I was building these houses, I had access to, hundreds of thousands of dollars of space and tools and you know, I had, over 100 years probably of experience, just being around the guys I was working with. So, I took the time after work to use those spaces, those tools, and the scraps of wood I could find, for free to just start sculpting things, just to get out of the rhythm of just being in that kind of straight line, framing houses, finished carpentry type stuff. And basically, you know, I always feel weird saying this because I feel like people might hate me a little bit, and it is truly shocking. But I mean, from the start, I mean, from that very moment when I started doing it, I slapped those pictures up on Instagram, and I immediately got really positive feedback and people buying these pieces right away. And so pretty quickly, in that first year, I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And so I quit. I quit building houses. I quit building cabinets, and I just went for it. It's freakish, honestly. I
No,
can't
it's so
explain it.
good.
It's just one of those things.
It's fantastic. I mean, we've had great luck with your sculptures, or I've had, yeah, I mean, we've rented some, sold some to TV shows, and now that we're working with home stagers. And I mean, I think they're beautiful. So I'm gonna just say, of course, people would react that way to your work.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you think that, because sometimes I'm like, gosh, did I just get like freakishly lucky and like, what is going on here? Any moment it's going to collapse. But I'm glad that you enjoy my stuff.
Oh my gosh, I really do. All right, now that you've started to work with bronze, I want to ask you, what are your favorite materials to work with and why? Is there a particular type of wood, or would it be the bronze, or tell me?
Yeah, I have so little experience at this point. I have a few pieces in stone as well. But yeah, I have to say wood. I think eventually once I really commit to another medium and I have like the right tools and I can do it in a productive way, then I'd spend more time doing that. But for now, the wood, yeah, the wood for me is just the absolute best. I mean, working with walnut, for example, which is probably my favorite wood. It's considered a hardwood, but it's really easy to work with. There is flexibility there, so it's not brittle. It's just absolutely beautiful. And then the maple, which would be my second choice, is much harder than walnut, but it's so natural. It's durable. Yeah, and I absolutely love it. I think because my background isn't in art, I have just gravitated towards the things that I've known and that I'm comfortable with. And so I think there's part of me that is really lacking in like the exploration area. And so even just going out and getting new woods for me is not like at the top of my priority list. I'm very much set in my ways, and I'm trying to move out of that obviously as I'm working in new materials and stuff. But I think when it comes to wood, I might just be with those two woods for forever. I just something about them now. I have like this personal connection with them. I think they're special. I think they're beautiful. They're not over the top. There's not tons going on, and so it really, puts the emphasis on the shape. And so, yeah, definitely walnut and maple.
Awesome. I want to talk about the titles that you choose for your pieces. And I'm
Mhm.
curious, I mean, I just want to list some of the titles. You've got Macedone, Alum, Calido, Volk, Kensho, Sando. Are these Greek names? Are they Japanese? What are they?
They are all over the place. So it's an interesting thing, and I could talk about this stuff forever, because it really kind of encapsulates the whole kind of emotional, psychological thing, for me that, behind all the work that I do. Um, I got my degree in archaeology. I've always been really into like anthropology, archaeology, mythology. That stuff for me is just so interesting, and it just gets me fired up and kind of just transports me to a new place. And that's really why I make the art, is to, at least for me, to kind of manipulate the my surrounding and kind of create an enriched environment where you're going to be looking at something and you're going to be have questions about it because it's abstract, and it's going to make you feel a certain way and you might not understand it. And for me, that is like directly correlated to the relationship I have with mythology and stuff. And so when I create a shape, I'm thinking, where does this piece take me? You know, and I just really kind of get within myself and try and feel, is this an animal? Is this like some ancient relic? Is this, what is this? Let's say 1,000 years ago, if an archaeologist dug it out of the ground. The interesting thing about archaeology is most of the time they have no idea what they're looking at, and so the whole field is to basically find out who can come up with the best story around an object. That's kind of how I see my art, is like, if someone was to dig up a piece in 1,000 years, what in the heck are they going to be thinking it is? And so a lot of the times I'll make the piece and then I'll name it. It's not the other way around. And so I'll look at it and think, like my most recent piece, I think it's the most recent one on my website. It's called Amisa's Dream, which is an ancient kind of, it's a really old story, but it's related to a woman who, was struggling to give birth, and then she had a dream, and it was this bird that flew off of a flag, and then like kind of allowed her and her husband to, take over this land. It's a long story. It's worth reading about. It's really cool. But I call it, yeah, I have, not many people know this, but my wife is pregnant, and so we're expecting a child. And this piece resembled this bird, and this bird, like kind of impregnated this woman in her dream. And so in this piece, you'll see that, like, kind of in the belly of the piece, it's white to kind of resemble like a womb. And then the bird, the shape just itself kind of resembles this bird that I was reading about. And so that's how I came to the name. But they come from all different areas of the world, and it's just, I usually make the piece, I ask myself, what is this making me feel? And then I find a story or a figure from history or from mythology that would kind of best encapsulate what I was feeling about the piece.
Oh my God, I had no idea. Thank you for explaining all that, because the titles they're so like easy. They're easy for me to remember. I don't know if they're easy for other people to remember, but they're not common. They're not, you don't obviously do untitled 1 through 300. You do, your titles are very specific. So,
and I mean, sometimes I can't remember either. I mean, I make so many pieces that I'm like, oh, what? And honestly, sometimes I am at a loss. I'm like, God, I'm just not finding the right thing that really embodies this piece. And so some of the words are actually nonsense. They're like a combination of two names that I've read in two different stories that just come together in an aesthetic way. And I'm thinking, that's just a beautiful name. So most of the time there's a meaning behind them. But occasionally you'll get an untitled, or just like basically a name I made up.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Okay. Who are some of your greatest influences?
It's another one that's kind of, I always fear this question because I didn't come from an art background. I never did, and I still don't spend tons of time looking at art, which is bizarre. And when I do see a piece of art that I like it, I'm not paying attention to who made it. I mean, honestly, I'm attracted to a lot of art that I don't even like. I have art in my house it's made by no one, like not anyone that anyone knows. It's just pieces that move me. And so I actually just had this conversation with someone recently who was thinking about becoming an artist, and she was asking me similar questions, and I was thinking, I actually make it a point to not spend tons of time looking at art, because I don't want to ever feel like I can't do something because someone else did it, or I should do something because no one else has done it. I just feel like those types of restrictions that we put on ourselves can be pretty limiting. And it's kind of inevitable, especially with Instagram. I spend so much time on there that you just inevitably see art, and it has impacted my creative process. I sit there and I think, oh, that's too similar to this person. I don't want to step on any toes, or, things like that. And so it's hard to reverse that, but
Social media.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the curse. So I try to stay away from it. It's nearly impossible, but obviously I think there's tons of beautiful work out there from famous people, from people that nobody knows about. But yeah, I couldn't give you a name, honestly.
That's cool. That's fine. All right. Describe your aesthetic. This is kind of a tough question. Well, actually, this won't be tough for you, I don't think. Describe your aesthetic in 3 words.
Hey, you sent the list of questions and I scanned over it just before we started the call. And actually this was a tough one for me.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
No, 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 no. We can give it a shot. And even if it's not in 3 words, let me just try to pinpoint it. I think when I'm sitting down to design, I'm thinking timeless. I want something that is not gonna become unattractive over time. I want something that is really simple, and we can talk about why I'm obsessed kind of with that idea. And the last, this is silly, but obviously abstraction is a form of art, but abstract to me, after spending a lot of time reading about the way that our brains interact with abstract art, I have become obsessed with it. The idea of abstraction and how new it is, evolutionarily and biologically for our brains. So for me, staying as far away from really overtly figurative things, I think is really important for me. So yeah, I would just say abstract, simple, and timeless are the things that I really spend my time driving home, at least when I'm sitting down to
To
draw
create.
something up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I would add clean to that. I mean,
Yeah.
simple, clean,
Clean and very accurate. I talk to people about this all the time. Like when something is off in one of my pieces, and I'm not saying all of my pieces are perfect, not even close, but I really am like spending so much time on like half of a degree of a curve in a piece, and like making sure that they are exactly right, which is a benefit of working on paper and then going to the wood. But yeah, clean, accurate. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you sketch all your pieces first on paper.
Yeah, I didn't start off doing that, but I quickly realized that maybe because when I started off, I was getting everything for free. I couldn't afford tons of wood to mess around with, and I was just wasting too much wood. So, and like trying to erase off of wood or whatever is a pain in the butt. So, yeah, I always start on paper. Always, absolutely. I mean, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long does it take you to create, let's say, one of your pieces, approximately?
Approximately, it's tough. I feel like I'm never actually just working on one piece. So I've never like quantified how much time it takes.
So you work on a few at the same time.
Yeah, because I'm like unbearably ADD, so it just helps for me to have multiple. I can just bounce around all day in the studio. But I would say I can get like a 13-inch tall kind of tabletop size piece probably in about a week.
Yeah, you do work quickly.
Yeah.
You do. Okay. What do you hope people will get from your sculptures?
So for me, this could also be a really long answer. First of all, I hope they get what I get out of it. And when people do, it is just the best thing in the world when they tell me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly why I did that. But for me, when I look back on all the greatest times in my life, the places I've been, and I'm like really honing in on like my favorite memories, they usually involve a setting, and it's like a smell, and it's like the texture of someone's, throw blankets, and it's all of the things, together. And I'm very like oriented in my senses, and it's just, really that's what forms everything for me. And so I always kind of just am thinking about, where things were placed, and just like the really subtle accents, and how each thing kind of interacts with everything else around it to form this memory, or this really big feeling. I'm not so much into someone looking at my art and just getting a feeling from that. It's really important to me that the art is around other things to kind of create a story, create a narrative, so that, honestly, it sounds silly, but let's say someone sees my thing and then 10 years later, they are like, gosh, what was it about that place? Like, to me, that means the room was put together perfectly because every little part of that
Every aspect.
space was in harmony. And so, yeah, I want my pieces to harmonize, and I want that to like resonate in people. That speaks to what I was saying about simplicity, is like, there's that quote, like, if you can't explain something in 5 words, then you don't really fully understand what you're talking about. Um, and so I feel like a lot of artists spend so much time on complexity and all these things. But really, as an art viewer, when you're looking at art, you're not sitting there thinking, "Oh man, this is amazing because of how complex it is." You're sitting there thinking, "This is amazing because of sometimes something you don't even realize, like a really smooth, like the emotion of a face or something, regardless of how detailed it is." And so, yeah, keeping that simplicity and then making sure it harmonizes with the things around it. That's really what I want, is it to be this really quiet kind of contemplative experience where maybe they don't even know it's my piece of art that's making them feel that way, but my art is part of something greater, something bigger, that's all beautiful when it's together.
Beautifully said, and so inspiring and moving. I want to post, obviously people can look at your pieces on my website and your website, but I'm also going to have a blog post about this.
Okay.
So I'll include some images of your work greater in a greater whole. You know what I mean? Like if you can send me, so we'll get those images up on the blog. So that would be great. If you we're going to wrap up a little bit, but not quite, we're not quite done. If you were granted $1 million for an art project, what would you do?
This was actually another tough one, because then you just start getting overwhelmed with ideas. I think
Sorry.
no, I think after spending like a minute being confused, I decided that I would probably build a structure that is just a structure where I can put my artwork. But again, that is just it's the complete experience. Like Rothko's Chapel, I think is just one of the coolest things ever. Something that would have a great relationship with sound and resonance, and be kind of confusing to get around. And then, yeah, just have sculptures. And, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is have like a really crazy gallery where, bringing furniture and paintings and audio art and sculpture into one place. That would just be the best challenge, I think.
And where would it be? Would it be in Wyoming?
Oh, that's tough. No, I don't think it would be here, although it could be here. I just don't plan on spending that much more time here. Yeah, somewhere similar though, somewhere with a very, untainted landscape, and, probably a little bit uninhabitable, where the space would act like an oasis. Yeah.
Like, have you been to Marfa, Texas?
No, but I keep hearing about how awesome it is, how it is like a little creative oasis out in the desert. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dying to go there. How do you stay motivated to keep creating? I mean, you're just so prolific. How do you stay motivated?
Yeah, I don't. Um,
You
I,
do,
I,
you do.
I think that's just such a hard question. I go through huge waves of creativity. I mean, that's just how I think a lot of us are.
For sure, it ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah, I mean, just a crazy amount of productivity, and then you're sitting around. Usually what gets me off my butt is just extreme boredom, and like I just can't, like, almost the guilt of sitting down for too long, and then I just have to go and at least like tidy up the studio or do something. I will say that if, now that I'm spending time thinking about it as words are coming out of my mouth, if I see like a space that is just awesome to me, it's usually a space that will get me motivated, that'll just like have ideas flying into my head, like a house, or some kind of really beautifully designed house or building or something like that. I think architecture and stuff influences me, a tremendous amount. So probably one of those things.
Okay. All right, some fun questions to wrap up with. Now, these are just like, you don't think for too long. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. First of all, do you listen to music when you're in your school?
Oh yeah.
Okay, what do
Yeah.
you listen to? What's your favorite music?
I hate this question, but if
Oh
I
God.
had to, I am a Radiohead, Tom York, Johnny Greenwood, who are both people in Radiohead, fan. I mean, anything that they do is so beautifully complex and wonderful. It just stimulates every part of my brain when it comes to music. So if I absolutely had to answer your question, I'd say probably Radiohead.
Okay. Favorite season?
It fall for the whole part of my life until probably 2 years ago, and then spring. Spring is so beautiful.
Okay.
It's overtaking fall.
Okay. Favorite food?
Anything Indian,
Okay.
I for the rest of my life I could eat it.
But my last question is, what's your favorite aspect about being an artist?
Probably the freedom. It's an interesting type of freedom because I've never worked more in my entire life. But yeah, just the setting your own pace and like allowing yourself time to breathe when you need it and showing up to work when you want to show up. It's the best thing. I think it's what everyone dreams about, and it's like I feel so incredibly lucky to be able to do it. So probably the freedom. Yeah.
Okay. And what's the hardest part?
The freedom. I think like yeah, running it as a business, which I get a lot of satisfaction from it. Actually, creatively, I find running a business to be really fulfilling. But yeah, there's no. It's just you know. It's not you know.
Yeah, it's all the accountabilities on you.
Yeah, it's all on me. So that's probably the hardest part. Is just you got to get up, you got to do the emails, you got to have like creative time, and then you have to have business time. It's a lot of work. That freedom, with that freedom comes a lot of work. So
True. All right, Chandler. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today on Beyond the Palette. I had a fantastic time. I learned so much from you. Thank you. Listeners, you all must see Chandler's incredible images on the Art Dimensions website, which is artdimensionsonline.com. And of course, Chandler's own site, chandlermclellan.com. We're on Instagram too, at Art Dimensions and at Chandler McLellan, which is Chandler and then McLellan. So please follow us on Instagram. And if you have a minute, rate this podcast. It really helps us expand our reach. You can throw us some stars on Apple Podcasts. So thanks again for tuning in. Chandler, before we go, is there anything else you want to add or want people to know about you?
I love talking about art, and I live in a really isolated place with almost no art scene. So if anyone ever wants to chat, shoot me an email, and we can talk art.
Fantastic. All right, to Chandler and to all of you out there listening, have a happy, healthy week and happy creating.